Okay, in the quantitative uniform circular motion lab, you looked at the net radial force, the force that makes something move around in a circle, and 3 different variables: mass, speed, and radius. When you look at net radial force versus the mass, this is the one that probably most of you did. You got a graph that looked like that, which we've seen before, a straight line graph with the 0 y-intercept, that tells us that the net radial force is directly proportional to the mass, or if the mass doubles, what happens to the force that you need to keep it going in a circle? Then the net radial force also doubles. Okay. For a specific equation, you got something like net radial force equals some number times m, and that some number had units of newtons per kilogram, which is interesting because you've seen that before, right? You saw that as the units of our gravitational field strength constant. You also saw it as it simplifies to meters per second squared. So what is that slope? What is the physical significance of that slope? We need to look at 2 things when we look at physical significance. You need to look at the units, and you need to look at the constants. And I always kind of think of it like you look at all the different things that are held constant in the experiment, and something's going to have the same units. This is what we're looking for right there, right? So the physical significance of our slope has the same units as our slope, and also has to do with the constants in our experiment. So let's look at the units first. We talked about how we have newtons per kilogram. Well, a newton is a kilogram meter per second squared, so this is kilograms meters per second squared per kilogram. Kilograms goes away, and you're left with meters per second squared. If we look at our constants, so here's our units over here. If we look at our constants, what do we hold constant in the experiment? Well, if we change the mass, we had to keep the speed and the radius constant. The speed units are meters per second. Radius units are meters. And to get to meters per second squared, well, we only have seconds in the bottom here, so that means we need to square the speed. And that will give us meters squared per second squared, right? But if we divide by the radius, that gives us meters squared per second squared divided by meters. And so these units come out to be meters per second squared. So what you could do now is, if you went back into your lab and you looked at your constant speed and you squared it, and then you divided it by your constant radius, then hopefully that number would be the same number you had for the slope of your graph up here. So what that's telling us is that the net force radial, this is coming up to a general model now, net force radial equals something times mass, and we just said that that something is speed squared over r times mass. And we can rewrite that equation as net force radial equals mv squared over r. That's the general equation we get from that first experiment, net force radial versus mass. Next, the next most popular experiment was net force radial versus speed. So you keep the mass and the radius the same, and you just keep increasing the speed, and you get a graph that looks like this. Which is telling this, oh, I'm sorry, totally skipped over some stuff here. Net force radial versus speed, and it looks like this, which tells us that as the speed increases, the net force radial increases, but it increases more and more as the speed increases. So of course, to linearize that, you're going to square the speed. Net force radial. And this is telling us now that the net force radial is directly proportional to the square of the speed, or it tells us that if the speed doubles, what's going to happen to the net radial force, the force that's required to keep the thing moving in a circle? The net radial force is going to quadruple. And if you look at your specific equation, you can have a slope on there, some number which is your slope times the speed squared. That number, which is the slope, will have units of newtons per meter squared per second squared. Okay, newtons per meter squared per second squared. And if we think, what is the physical significance of the slope? We need to look at the units. So newtons per meter squared per second squared. How do we simplify that? Divide by a fraction is the same as multiplying by the inverse. So that's going to be newtons times second squared per meter squared. Right? Remember that a newton is a kilogram meter per second squared. Kilogram meter per second squared times second squared per meter squared. Now we've got second squared goes away, and we've got meters goes away, so this becomes kilograms per meter. And this one's pretty easy compared to the last one, right? So if the constants in the experiment, if we change the speed squared, constants must be the mass and the radius. So mass is measured in kilograms, radius is measured in meters, so our slope is m over r, and you just got to check to make sure there's not some pesky fraction in there like a half or something. So if you take your constant mass and you divide by your radius, hopefully you got the same number that you have for the slope of your graph. And our general equation, net force radial equals something times speed squared, and that net force radial equals m over r times speed squared, or net force radial equals mv squared over r. Hey, look, that looks familiar. It's the same general equation that we got for the last experiment. Finally, not very many of you did this, but the last experiment changed the mass, changed the speed. Now we're going to change the radius. So if we took the net force radial versus radius, a weird thing happens. As the radius gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it actually gets easier and easier and easier to make the thing go in a circle, which, if you think about it, is kind of true, because if you don't make the thing go in a circle at all, in other words, if you just let an object go in a straight line, you don't need any radial net force, right? So the bigger the radius is, the more it looks like the more the path looks like a straight line, the smaller the net force radial gets. To linearize that graph, then, we look at net force radial versus the inverse of r. And now we get this familiar looking graph, 0 y-intercept in a straight line. Net force radial is directly proportional to 1 over r, or you could say the net force radial is inversely proportional to r. Or in other words, if r doubles, then the net force radial is halved. Right, whatever you do to the r, whatever factor you change r by, you're going to change net force radial by the inverse of that factor. That's how an inverse proportion works. And our equation, net force radial equals some number that you got for your slope times 1 over r. And that slope will have units of some number, and it'll be newtons per 1 over meter. Okay. So again, if we look at units and we look at constants, we're trying to figure out the physical significance of the slope. Units are newtons per 1 over meter, which is equal to newtons times meters, which is equal to kilograms times meters per second squared times meters, which is equal to kilograms times meters squared per second squared. And you can kind of see where this is going to. The constants in the experiment, we changed the radius, we kept the mass and the speed constant. So how do we get there? How do we get from mass and speed to these units of kilograms meters squared per second squared? That is the slope is m times v squared. Okay. And again, you need to go back and check. Take your constants, take your constant mass, take your constant speed and square it, multiply those two together, and hopefully that's the same number as the slope for your graph. So the net force radial is equal to something times 1 over r, and that something is m times v squared. And if we rewrite that, our general equation becomes net force radial equals m times v squared over r. And that's how you analyze your quantitative uniform circular motion lab.